All right, guys, welcome to at least your first day of e-learning with me. I have this lovely video. It's going to be very entertaining, I'm sure. But we all could use a break from Netflix, I bet. So let's go ahead and get started. If you haven't already, open up the Chapter 10 notes for arcs and angles and circles. We were already working on these in class, so you should have them already with work either in Notability or on Canvas under modules for Chapter 10. All this information should be filled in. You might also want to have open circles number 6, the assignment. The PDF was attached to the assignment for today, as well as another copy should be under the modules. So let's start with these notes. These you should all have already. Central angles. I'll talk a little bit about a couple, the angles on the circle and angles inside the circle. I'll talk about those really quick. Then we have to take notes. This is the new one outside the circle, but it's very similar to the one before it inside the circle. And then I'm going to go to the homework and I'm going to do a few of the problems, and then I'll leave you to it to finish and turn in by the end of class today. All right, so let's get it. All right, first, this is a review. This is something that I'm sure we don't remember by now. Okay, but if we have an angle that's on the circle, meaning the vertex here is literally on the circle, so the angle I've highlighted in blue is the angle we're looking for, okay? Okay, if I'm trying to find that angle or the arc, okay, so this is the angle. When I say the arc, I'm referring to this, call it the intercepted arc, okay? So we have the angle in blue and the arc in red, okay? And the breakdown is that 2 times the angle equals the arc. So 2 times this angle right here, okay, will equal this arc, which we already know is 70. So to solve for this one, right, and I'm going to do this throughout the lesson. I'm going to turn all these question marks into x's, right, just so we use an x in our equations, x degrees, okay. So the angle is x. The arc is 70, right? Oh, it's a bad 0. Better 0. Better 0. Yeah. Okay. And I'm doing 2 times the angle, right? 2 right here times the angle. I don't know what it is, so I called it x. And I think it should be obvious from here to solve. Divide by 2 both sides so that x equals 35. Okay. Degrees. Degrees. That click-clacking you're hearing is my awesome cheap stylus because I did not want to get an Apple Pencil, so hashtag deal with it. All right, so the angle for this one was 35 degrees, okay? And in the homework, we're going to do a little something similar. All right, this one we should also have notes on already, finding the measure of an angle inside the circle. So this angle is inside. It's not at the center. The center would be like somewhere around here, right? And that's not where this angle is. This angle is just inside generally. The purple represents the angle right there. Okay, so when I'm looking for that, how we found that question mark angle is I said we averaged both of the arcs. So both of the arcs I put in blue here, 150 and 80. Okay, averaging them means I add them together, right, up here, 150 plus 80. And then I divided by 2, however many there were. That's averaging. So we averaged the arcs, and that's how we found the question mark angle. So my purple question mark angle in this case would be, you're going to hear me clicking on my calculator. If you don't have yours out now, you should pause this and grab a calculator or pull it up on your phone or whatever you need to do. So you add 150 and 80 first. That's why they're in parentheses. That's 230. And then I divide by 2. That's 115. And I'm done. The measure of the mystery angle is 115 degrees. Okay. You should have those notes already, but if you don't, you could write these down or just look back on this video. Now, these are new. The notes on the angle outside the circle should be new to us. Okay. So like I said, it's very similar to inside. It's similar because, again, we have two intercepted arcs, and this one we had 150 and 80. This one we have a 60 and a 140. Okay, the setup is going to be similar, not the same, similar. Okay, and the difference just between the two in general, looking at the picture, let me just get some of this extra stuff out of here. Okay, if you look, right, this angle is on the inside. This angle is on the outside. So that's how you can tell the difference between the two, right? The question mark angle and the bottom one is outside of the circle, whereas the other was inside. Okay, so the formula I wrote right there in orange, okay? I wrote it down. It is going to be the big arc, now this is important, minus the small arc, or it is not plus anymore, it is minus, okay? And up here it was plus. Okay, but now we're switching it to minus. And the order is going to be important for this outside the circle. The order of these numbers up here was not important for this problem, okay? Whether I did 150 plus 80 or 80 plus 150, it doesn't matter. You get the same output. Here, you have to do the big arc minus the small arc. And I'll explain how to find those, but it's always the big arc minus the small arc, and then again divided by 2. Okay, so we always start with the angle, and I should have done it in my little formula here. Let me fix it. I'm going to call it x. Okay, I'm going to do this throughout. I'm going to take all these question marks and make them x's. Okay, so that when we're solving, it's like an equation, right? So the question mark is an x. So the angle goes right here. X equals the big arc minus the small arc divided by 2 over 2. Okay, so let's plug in for this problem. In this problem, in all the problems that look like it, okay, the big arc is always going to be the one farthest from the angle. So the other side, that's a little sloppy. Let me try that again. That's probably worse. We're just going to stick with it. Okay, that red sloppy angle, right, is the big arc, the red. Okay, the small arc is going to be here, kind of like that inside one. It's a little closer. It's also nice and easy to tell because, well, the big arc is bigger. 140 is bigger than 60, right? But we won't always have both arc measures, so it's important to know the big arc is always in the same position. This where the red is, okay, and the small arc is always where the green is. All right, so if I'm going to set it up, which I'm going to right now, let's go with purple. All right, it always starts with the angle. So the angle, which I'm calling x, right, x, that's the angle, it's where I start. X equals the big arc, I'm going to start parentheses here, the big arc minus the small arc, all divided by 2. All right, and it's just calculator work from there. It's 140 minus 60, you got to do that step first, that's 80, and then I divide that by 2, so x will equal 40 degrees. Yeah, all right. So that is the new notes for today. So the key here is that you do big arc minus small arc divided by 2, and also it's a minus now instead of a plus. Okay, so we have two very similar problems, similar setups, right? We pretty much did the same math. Look, we just added 2 numbers divided by 2. We subtracted 2 numbers and then divided by 2. You know, it's pretty much the same math, just slightly different, and the location of the angle is what makes the difference. Okay, big arc is red, small arc is green. All right, we're ready to move on to the homework, so I'm going to go back into my notability here, and circles number 6 is what your homework is going to be, and I shouldn't call it homework, it's essentially classwork. It'll be due by the end, so if you haven't set an alarm or anything, okay, by the time this class is over, you need to have this turned in, okay? Any later than that, I'm going to mark it as late, so make sure you set an alarm for maybe 5 minutes before the class ends, and just turn in what you have done. I'm going to do, let's see, that's 7 problems with you. I have some answers written down here that you can go back on. I'm going to explain them, so make it a lot easier for you if you just listen to the explanations. First, I'm going to do the new notes, which will be 2, 8, and 25. That is the new type of problem where we have the angle on the outside. Okay, so we have to set it up where we do big arc minus small arc divided by 2. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to take my question mark and turn it into an x. I keep writing x degrees. That's that little dot, just to remind myself that at the end, my answer should be x equals, and all these are angles and arc measures, and all angles and arc measures are measured in degrees. That's probably too big, but we'll deal with it. Okay, so let's set up the problem. It always starts with the angle. In this case, the angle measure is x. That will not always be the case, and we'll see that with number 25. Okay, so we start with x. So x equals, now it's going to be the big arc, which is always located in the same spot. I'll highlight it again, though, in red. That's the big arc. So I'm going to start there. Big arc, 122, minus, in green here, my small arc is 46. 46. Right, all in parentheses, because I have to do that first. And then divided by 2 at the end. So now it's really just calculator work. You go 122 minus 46, enter, that's 76, and I divide that 76 by 2. That is 38 degrees, and we are done. That's it. Okay, it's just a simple little math equation. Put it together, and you're finished. All right, this is the, you don't have to do all of this like highlighting I'm doing over here. That's not essential, but I do need to see this setup and this answer. The setup seems kind of superficial because it's such a simple problem, but as you get to the harder ones, it's important to know the setup so that you know how to find x when it's not right here, which it will not always be. Okay, so I need these two things in order for it to get full credit. All right, let's jump to 8 and then 25. All right, 8. Okay, I did 8. I wanted to do 8. Now it's an angle on the outside. So I know what my setup's going to be. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to call this x again. X degrees. Okay, now my small arc is given to me as 115. I see that. Okay, small arc is 115, but what is the big arc? Now, this is 2 tangent lines here. This line here, and this line here. Okay, so I have 2 tangent lines. Okay, so it cuts the arcs into 2 arcs. I have the green and I have the red. Now the red is going to be my big arc, but the question is, what does it measure in degrees? I'm sure some of us might be thinking ahead. We've done problems similar to this. How could I find this red arc if I know that the green is 115, and of course I know the total? The entire circle is going to be 360 degrees. So if I wanted to find the red arc, okay, I can do that. All I have to do is take the total, which is 360. Well, I guess I'll write it again over here. 360, and subtract out what I already know I have. I know there's one, my small arc is 115. When I subtract 360 and 115, I get 245. Okay, that's what the red arc is going to be. The red arc is the big arc is 245 degrees. Okay, 245. You may have to do that from time to time. If they give you only part of it, you need to find the other half. Well, I know the total is 360, so just take out what I have out of 360. And we've done plenty of stuff like that before. All right, back to it. The angle, always start with the angle. X equals big arc, which we now found is 245, minus small arc is 115, divided by 2. Calculator, subtract first, then divide by 2. Your final answer should be x equals 65 degrees. Okay, boom, done. Okay, so I need to see at least this. All right, last one. Now this is where it gets a little trickier. Somewhere down here. There it is, 25. Okay, I know it looks like a lot of work, but some of these are going to be really quick. It's pretty much just going to be these last 2 pages that might take you a little bit of time, but they're all very similar in the setup. So once you do 1 or 2, they'll move pretty quick. Okay, the difference in number 25 and pretty much every problem on this last page is that the angle is no longer the x. They tell you the measure of the angle on the outside. They say it's 55. What I'm looking for, my x, let me make it an x. My x is now the arc. I'm actually looking for the big arc instead of looking for the angle like I did on the past 2. All right, so I'm still going to set it up. It's still the same setup. Okay, it's just the x is going to be in a different spot. Usually we started the equation with x. Now we're going to start it with, well, we still start with the angle. It's just the angle now is 55. So I'm actually going to go right below it here. It's a little easier for me. Okay, so the angle is 55. So 55 equals. Now I still do the big arc minus the small arc. The problem is that the big arc is no longer a number. It's an x. So I'm still going to do big arc x minus small arc 70 in parentheses, if you'd like. Okay, and it's still always divided by 2. That's a part of the equation, is dividing it by 2. All right, so from here, what I need to do is I'm going to clear this fraction over here. This fraction, no me gusta. I do not want this fraction. I would rather it just be, for example, x minus 70. That'd be cool. Okay, we can do that, and I will show you how. What we're going to do is we're actually going to multiply this right side of the equation by, well, if you think about it, if 2 is on the bottom, how could I get 2 on the bottom to cancel? Well, if I multiplied it by another fraction, let's say 2 over 1, actually, let me give myself a little space here, times 2 over 1, okay, that means the 2 that I just crossed off and that top 2 cancel. All right, that's good. I can multiply this right side of the equation by 2. That's fine. Okay, when I multiply it by 2, that leaves me with just x minus 70. I crossed off the 2 on the bottom. Technically, it became a 1, but do I really have to write it as over 1? No. Okay, anything over 1 is just itself, right? 2 over 1 over here is really just 2. 2 over 1 and 2 are the exact same thing. I just wrote it as a fraction so I could cancel. Okay, so the golden rule of algebra, if I want to multiply the right side of the equation by 2, that's fine. But what do I have to do to the left? I also have to multiply it by 2. I'm not multiplying by 2 over 1 because, like I just showed you over here, 2 over 1 and 2 are really the same thing. So 2 times 55 is 110. Okay, and now look at that. Now it's 110 equals x minus 70. That's a very easy equation to solve. You're going to add 70 to both sides. That gives me 180. Okay, that's a little degrees. X equals 180 degrees. Look back at the problem. Make sure that makes sense. Could that big arc be 180 degrees? Sure, it could. Okay, so x is 180. I would be done. This one, C, requires a little more work. All right, so if I were you, if you're watching this video, I would start working on these because these take a little longer. The problems that come before them are a little easier. Okay, so I'd start working on these if I were you. All right, but I will say this about this problem in this back page. They're all set up the same. They're all set up the same. Your steps will be the exact same over and over. The numbers will change, okay? Maybe the x comes first or it comes second here. That doesn't matter. It'll be the exact same steps. You always do this multiply by 2 step first to clear the fraction, and then you're usually just left with some type of little linear equation to solve. Okay, your first step is pretty much always to set it up and then just multiply by 2, and the rest should make sense after that. Look at this next one, just really quick setup. Okay, angle first. The angle on the outside is 45, right? So 45 equals, it's always big arc minus small, so make sure that big arc always goes first. Right, 170 minus, okay, I'm going to do what I did in the last one, just call the angle x, or sorry, the arc x, all divided by 2, right? Your first step is always to multiply both sides by 2, clear the fraction, boop. Okay, so that 45 becomes a 90. I have 90 equals 170 minus x. All right, cool. I'm going to subtract 170 from both sides. Okay, you will not be getting any negatives in this worksheet. No negative answers. So if you notice, if I do 90 minus 170 in my calculator, you will get a negative 80. That's not my answer. Look at what's left on the other side. That is a negative x. So you still have one more step left. You have to divide by negative 1, right, on both sides. So x is actually 80, not negative 80 degrees. Okay? No negatives in our answers. All right, last thing, really quick. Let me jump through and show you some answers on some of the older stuff. So if you look at number 1, okay, this goes back to the notes that I started with. The angle, it's always 2 times, I'm just going to use that, 2 times the angle, in this case it's x, will equal the arc. Okay, so you just divide 2, and that's where I got my 43 from. Okay, number 4, you know, and I already did an example like this, but I just set it up here so you could look back if you want to try and remember for number 4, the setup and the answer. I did one like that already. Let's see, what else do I got here? I did that one. All right, yeah, these look kind of weird, so sometimes people forget, but if you notice, I have the angle. That 50 degrees is talking about this angle, so it's the same setup. When it's in an angle that's on the circle, it's 2 times the angle will equal, well, in this case, the arc is a question mark. I'm going to call it x, right? And these do 2 times 50. There's my answer. So sometimes you multiply the number you're given by 2, other times you divide. It depends on which bit of information they give you. This case, they gave me the angle. On the case before that, number 1, okay, they gave me the arc. So that's why I multiplied that time instead of divided. All right, do I have any more? Oh, 19, okay. Here's the setup for 19. There's a whole section where you have the angle inside the arc, where you have to do the algebra steps. Okay, so these last 2 pages really will be where you have to set it up where the x is inside the parentheses somewhere. Either the first, could be the second as well. Doesn't matter. Where you have to multiply by 2 on both sides first to clear the fraction, right? And then it's just a simple algebra problem from there. All right, good luck. If you have any questions, drop them in the discussion page for this day. I believe today is either the 23rd or the 24th, depending on which period you're in. So let's try and get this done and do the best you can. Even if you're not all the way done, if you have a couple blank, like 1 or 2, I'm fine with that. But if you have like pages blank, I don't know about that. So get to work, get it done, talk within any groups you have on Snap or whatever, and just make sure we all know what we're doing and can do this and turn it in by